Sir, we'll start with council miscellaneous comments with Councilman Kurizakis.
I have nothing.
Councilman Martin.
Council President, I was asked to respond by a neighbor and a former council person here who I fully respect and who, believe it or not, were on similar pages and aligned on what you're trying and what we all are trying to attempt here. So peace and love, but here are my opinions. And my opinions are that the process wasn't where it was advertised to the public. The process was provide a recommendation from each of the elected officials to somebody who would serve on the board. And I'm sorry, I don't know everybody who made a choice for those to serve on the board. I did ask prior to the meeting for a summary of their backgrounds that was provided just before the meeting. In addition, there were no metrics provided as to why we would select an individual. So I developed my own metrics. And I started off in the caucus room where we first had this discussion. And the metrics were, hey, are they family members of somebody that I'm not aware of? Tell me up front now, because I don't want to know this 6 months from now. Are they a former employee of somebody or of either a firm or here that I need to be aware of? So somebody doesn't tell me 6 months from now that there may not be an arm's length relationship. And thirdly, tell me about the donations to any of the folks here. In other words, the small ones are not a big deal, and at no time did I infer that. It was if somebody dropped, if they dropped $1,000, $2,000, I want to know that because that is a different situation. And every individual up here responded who was an elected official, law director, mayor, and all the council people except for one. And in my opinion, that one council person casts a long shadow, and I would like to know the opinions of that. And I think whether they're a family member or a former employee should be known up front so I can defend the process later on. At no point did I infer that there was something on any particular individual, but there has to be a process where we can vet and have a metric that will determine do we have a fair empanelment of the Charter Review Committee. And I wouldn't do it any differently. Going back into executive session and not being able to have these discussions out front is a way to hide from the public, yes. But it would do no damage if everybody could have been up front and respond clearly that there were no issues. And to this point, I don't know if there's any issues because I've not heard from everybody. And I will keep my vote the same, and anything can be done here on a 5-2 vote or a 6-1 vote, that's okay. But don't ask me to support something if I don't have full information. I won't do that on this topic, and I won't do it on future topics. But I do agree with you completely, and we do have the same opinion, that the process needs to be fair, the process needs to be legitimate, it needs to be arm's length, and it needs to be able to be supported in the end. There's a tough road ahead here of the things that you're going to be reviewing, and I appreciate those efforts, and I applaud those efforts, and I support those efforts. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Councilman Snitsky.
I just would like to welcome Fire Chief Jamie Mecklenburg. I've been in the city long enough to remember when they used to come flying down Hillside Road with their homemade sirens and their homemade red lights. We have certainly come a long way, and we have certainly grown up. He seems like a very eloquent individual, and I look forward to working with him. And like the mayor said, I think it's going to lead to good things. I also want to thank Sonia. Every time I've had a financial issue or a financial question, she's answered it quickly and eloquently and cut right to the answer for me, and I've appreciated working with her. And good luck. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Delaquilla.
No remarks.
Councilman Elliott?
Madam President,
Councilman.
first of all, I'd like to thank Mayor Biasiotta and former Mayor Delaquila for helping me along with the fire chief. It really was a 2-year process. I think we started this probably 2 weeks in our first term. Also want to thank the rest of the council for supporting it. Wasn't easy getting it through, but the way we looked at it was the future in Seven Hills is bright. We have big development coming on Rockside. We have Myers coming. We need someone full-time in that position. We're also still working on a few things with the fire department, the police department. So I want to thank all you guys for that. The Charter Review Committee, I sat back and I thought about this, and I still don't agree with you, Councilman Martin. I looked over the names on the list, and some of them I don't know, but I do have faith in the system. The mayor was nothing but transparent about the whole thing, letting us actually pick somebody that we trusted to go on there, and my choice made it, and I think everyone on this council has a voice on that Charter Review Committee. This guy sitting in the seat over here, I trust him with anything. He's done more work for the city than behind the scenes than anyone I know. And hopefully he's the head of the Charter Review Committee. And with that, I will have nothing but faith in that it'll be fair and honest. And I think you need to change your tune on this thing and actually sit back and look. I mean, do your due diligence. Look at the people on there. The mayor's been transparent. Interview them. Bring them in and interview them. Everyone on that list will come in and meet you. And I think after you meet them, you'll change your mind. But thank you for the time, Madam President. I'm done.
Thank you. Okay, I want to start off briefly by congratulating Chief Mecklenburg and wishing him nothing but the greatest of luck. I also would like to say some words to Sonia, our Finance Director. You will be greatly missed. It was truly a pleasure to work with you, and I want to thank you for all the assistance that you've shown me and the rest of the council since I've been here. So I greatly appreciate it, and I wish you nothing but the best. In regards to Councilman Robles' comments, I didn't plan on addressing this because I too, like the mayor, have moved on. But I do feel there's some things that need to be said. Councilman Robles, you had mentioned about a point of order. You believe a point of order potentially should have been raised. I didn't feel it went to that level where a point of order should have been raised. There were 9 people here at the dais that could have raised that as well. Although the timing may not have been proper, a council person did ask for a resume, which is public record. There's no need for executive session on that. And that was just to clarify, background clarification. No problem with that at all. I don't see anything wrong. Asking for a resume is paramount when you're talking about a public position. It's very important for us to know and to understand. We're responsible for the city's money and allocating that. We all want to work together and be supportive of each other. So asking for a little bit of information, I think, is, again, paramount to what we do as a public official when we're responsible for taxpayers' dollars. It is our job to ask questions, as it is yours. Everyone's entitled to this information. The one thing that I find troubling about the whole process is that not only a councilman, but a committee member to Finance, Civil Service, and Personnel asked for a resume, and he was told to make a public records request. I find that offensive. But here we are, and we're trying to move on. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Madam President,
Mayor.
I do not, what I'm speaking to is not about the charter review. I am speaking about executive session for employee performance. Anyone that's been in this job a day know that we go into personnel to talk about qualifications of an employee. Had anyone called me, yourself, because you Googled looking for a resume, we could have did this. And I do believe point of order should have been called. It could have been called by the presiding officer, whose job it is to preside over meetings. And secondly, it could have been called by the law director, whose job it is to protect the city from lawsuits. Ohio Revised Code 121.22 specifically provides for the option of going into executive to talk about qualifications. A resume is a qualification. Had anyone talked to me in committee about it or called me, we could have had a conversation and we could have, I happily would have shared it, as I've done with many other things. I question why we waited till we got to the dais on the public on the camera to discuss this. At the end of the day, the right to hire and fire is the mayor's for employees in civil service. Nothing was done inappropriate. If there's a disagreement between council and I, the right is still mine. If you don't think you're getting the value after 3 weeks on the job, that's a pretty interesting question. It's absolutely council's right to protect the pocketbook, but the person in question had been on the job 3 weeks, and we were questioning their ability. Nobody questioned, asked me in advance, hey, I think I got a problem. It showed up on social media, and then it was parroted here on the dais. I was not given a courtesy that any other mayor would have. So from that standpoint, I am offended. I am also offended by the ongoing social media posts, and if you'd like to have an executive session, I'd like to go in and talk about personnel if you'd like to talk about this further, because I will respect the rules that were laid out by the Ohio Revised Code that allows us to go in the executive to talk about a personnel issue, because I'm deeply offended, but I want to keep the eye on moving forward. I could withstand some criticism. I could withstand the lies, the 100% lies that are on the social media, on the site that you interact with. But I choose to spend my time working on moving the city forward and putting on the projects, and I want to put it in the past. But if you're going to sit on the dais publicly say you were offended because I said a public records request, I'll happily go in the executive and explain why it was handled that manner. I was protecting the city from a potential defamation lawsuit, protecting not all personnel files may be public record. You send it through public records request to protect the city and to stop the comments that I believe should have happened in private. I'm sorry that I've raised my voice slightly, but I was hoping to keep this in the past. But I'd happily go in the executive and explain and support with documentation each thing that I felt went wrong with that meeting in violation of council rules and not taking advantage of the state law that provides for executive session for the purpose of protecting the city, which is also our job. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mayor. I stand by what I say. I don't believe there was any violation of the Sunshine Laws. It states very clearly in the Sunshine Law Manual that asking for a resume is public record. I didn't hear any mention of qualifications, and I'm going to leave it at that. Any other comments before we adjourn?
Yeah, I'd like to go in the executive. We don't have to, we can wait. I believe that we are not. I have brought copies of the Sunshine Law. I brought copies of the executive, the rules of council, and we can have this, we can settle this once and for all in executive if you like. But if you want to wait till another day, I'm fine too.
I'll
People calm
leave it
down.
up to council. Does council want an executive session?
What's its purpose?
Mayor?
I call personnel. Personnel performance. We have.
What's its specific purpose? To lecture a council person on the Sunshine Law, or to defend an individual employee?
Not to
Because if that's
defend, it is not to
I
defend
have
an
the floor.
employee. I have a description.
Point of order, point of order. Norm,
Thank you,
please
Council
finish your thought.
President. At no point in time did we discuss a resume in the public forum. The question to Council President was, Did she receive a resume from you?
Point
The
of
answer was
order.
no,
This-
and
this is-
that's when the discussion took off.
This has already been voted on. This is
Yes.
a point of order. We don't even need to discuss this now.
I'd like to second Pat Elliott.
I want to make something really clear here. Hold on a second. I want to make something really clear here. If we go back and look in, the voting, this mayor received, what, 80-something% of the vote? And people voted for him based on what he says and what he gets done. So we're sitting here talking about an employee that he hired. I am behind him 150% on who he hires. If you guys don't like it, then don't like it. But this dais is not the place to start this stuff. If you have a question for him, call him and ask him. How many fights have I been in with you? I fight this guy all the time, and all I got to do is call him, and he'll give me whatever I ask for. It's that simple. You don't do it up here. It was a shot. It was a shot at this council. It was a shot at the Charter Review Committee, and it was a shot at this mayor, and it needs to stop.
That is purely your opinion, and it was not a shot at any point in time. If you can't get information from a mayor...
Point of order. Asked to be recognized by...
All right, I'll ask to be recognized.
President.
Madam President,
Councilman Norman.
thank you. It's a checks and balance type of system we have here. If you want to get in behind the mayor, and you want to get in behind the administration, go ahead and do that. That's just fine. But don't tell me as an elected person, as a councilman, that I don't have the right to ask questions about someone's background, that I don't have the right to discuss things in a public forum, that I don't have the right to have the ability to answer questions of when folks present them to me, of what someone's background and qualifications are. Because if we don't, all we have is Mayberry RFD. You get small-town politics with small-town relationships, and that's what I'm trying to avoid.
I'm going to make a motion to adjourn. I think it's best if we do that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Call the roll, please.
Delaquila.
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Curriasis. Martin.
Yes.
Snitsky.
We're out at 8:25. Who seconded it? Was that Tom?
Tom.
Hey, you. How you doing? Oy vey.